Is schizophrenia purely a disorder based on delusion, or is it built on a phenomenological experience that is bedrock real and that has delusional and paranoid aspects added onto it? My answer is strongly the latter, and in a second, I'm going to give an explanation of why. Basically, I'm going to dig really deep into one of the most unusual and fascinating symptoms of schizophrenia, and I'm going to show through my analysis of it how schizophrenics actually do experience a variety of undue influence, although, of course, this is not part of some giant conspiracy theory. But um, yeah, to sum up what I'm saying, essentially, I'm going to give a reason we should believe that schizophrenics are, by happenstance, it turns out, not by conspiracy, interpreting some, experiencing something that could be called a valid form of mind, quote unquote, mind control. So the symptom I developed this theory to explain is something called echopraxia. It's a fairly rare symptom of schizophrenia, but it indicates something really deep. It's a symptom of schizophrenia where schizophrenics will unintentionally mirror the body language of others in conversation to an eerie extent. Schizophrenics who do this do not know they are doing this. If they're recorded doing it, even the recordings will not convince them, and they'll largely um, deny that this is happening through delusions that the psychiatrist or whoever gave them the recording is trying to trick them in manufacturing a recording. So what we have here is something. Well, first of all, before getting to why this is so interesting, obviously this is related to what most people do. You know, we all have mirror neurons. We all mirror some conversation, but echopraxia manifests itself to an extent that it's as if they were experiencing a form of puppetry where they're mirroring all the actions of others rather literally, and in fact, it's noticeable enough that people around an echopraxic will often think that the person is trying to mock them because they can't come up with any other reason why this person is mirroring every movement they do. It's deeply related to another symptom of schizophrenia, which is known as echolalia. It's just what it sounds like. It's a tendency to say the same things others are saying when they say them to you. These are generally treated like sidelines rather than really important, deep, or indicative principles of schizophrenia. But in a second, I'm going to show why they should not have been ignored and open on to something really, really interesting that could help explain finally what is happening here with schizophrenia. But first of all, I wanted to go back a bit. Echopraxia. You know, it can involve either mouthing of sentences without actually saying them, or it can involve a far more literal just saying what the other person is saying. Yes, so now that those things are explained, what are we supposed to get out of this? Well, the interesting thing is these symptoms are not part of the delusional framework of schizophrenia. However, they mimic quite closely the delusional experiences schizophrenics are claiming to have. Notably, they are experiencing a form of undue influence. The actions of others are literally controlling these admittedly rather small behaviors, but it's so interesting that these people who claim they are experiencing kind of like a form of unfair psychic puppetry, they actually do have too permeable of boundaries in this area. They actually are being influenced by the behavior of others, even when they don't want to be. Echopraxia is impossible for the schizophrenic to turn off. Can we really get something this deep out of it, that schizophrenics are in fact experiencing a form of non-conspiratorial, non-intentional mind control, but that what they're saying Yeah. But then what they're saying is nonetheless real. Well, echopraxia, it's an extraordinarily rare symptom of schizophrenia. Only present in about 1% of schizophrenics, but in a second I'm going to show why there's already research confirming the idea um, that schizophrenics are actually all on a spectrum of echopraxia, and partially confirming my theories. Um, so basically, this is research from a book called Motor Action Theory, it's a really interesting. Um, it has a really interesting compilation of research done on echopraxia and schizophrenics, where I guess as context for this, you need to understand, first of all, we all store images of actions in our heads, actions we are thinking about doing as well as actions we actually do. The covert and the overt action images we store look rather different. And in fact, we all store covert action images of others in our heads for purposes of learning to move as others do, learning mirroring, stuff like that. The rather interesting thing about this is echopraxia has been shown to be just an error of storage. Echopraxis actually store what you would store as a covert action image of another's behavior as an overt action image. So you are already doing all the same things, except theirs is stored as an image of themselves and actually fires. Yours is stored as an image of others. The super fascinating thing is, although echopraxia is a rare symptom of schizophrenia, since images of others and self look different, they can actually confirm that all schizophrenics are on a spectrum to echopraxia, meaning most of them don't have errors regarding overt action images of themselves and others, but they actually they categorize a lot of covert action images of others as images of themselves instead. They have a much higher error rate, and yeah, this is just really fascinating. But this partially confirms the ideas I've developed, and I did not know about this research at this time. But the thing I am going to claim is that this extends further. That it extends towards the realm of belief and modeling intentions, because we all model intentions of others. We all store beliefs of others in our minds, but we don't give them the same credence. You're not going to feel like you're supposed to act a certain way because of the desire of another person. You're not going to, you're not going to. Sorry, I was get jumbled up when explaining my ideas, but you're not going to believe a belief of another without passing it through a filter. So you give beliefs and intentions of your own a lot more weight than you do with the beliefs of others. And I'm claiming that there's likely a similar form of error happening in terms of tagging categorization in the mind of schizophrenics, and that this causes a lot of the supposed mind control they're experiencing. They build, I think a lot of the paranoia present in schizophrenia is actually, first of all, it's an attempt to explain what they're seeing, but secondly, it's a psychological defense mechanism. They don't start out antisocial or too separate from others. They actually are forcibly, the paranoia is a defense mechanism that actually helps them retain a sense of self in an environment of too permeable of boundaries. In terms of why schizophrenia always turns negative in our society, because there's tons of shamans out there in tribes that have symptoms of schizophrenia, but that don't have any of the issues with paranoia. I think it's actually a matter of the attention society we lived in. The fact that there's advertising all over the place that is attempting to control us, and for a normal person, this does not take up a lot of weight. It does not take up a lot of psychological space. For a schizophrenic, it's a really deadly kind of environment and situation, and There's actually lots of research that schizophrenics will get better if they're not allowed to watch TV or stuff like that. That there's so many delusions associated with technology specifically for some reason, but especially like avoiding TV and radio tends to help them. Um, by the way, this idea, although the specific idea that this is happening with belief and modeling of beliefs is mine, there's actually lots of research already showing that throughout not just schizophrenia, but the entire schizoid spectrum, the entire schizophrenia form spectrum, there's errors with self-other distinction happening. Like, yes, schizoids schizotypals are at times able to tickle themselves, which is interesting because that likely involves the same sort of motor error that's present in echopraxia, although I don't think the basis has really been looked at, but they don't treat actions of their own different than actions of others in that case. And there's lots of, in another video I'm going to explain the rest of the symptoms of schizophrenia, the delusionality, the distorted thinking, the randomness of their thought as also being due to a type of overpermeability, although this is going to be what's known about poor boundaries schizophrenics have with their environment, and it's actually going to, it's going to be really interesting, so I hope you tune in.